Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1, or shall I say Stop and Go F2, because we're now discussing the Monaco Grand Prix for the F2, and my goodness, what an incredible feature race we've just had. We have to talk about the sprint race first, but I cannot wait to talk about that feature race because that was fantastic. One of the best races I've seen around Monaco in years. You have to go back a very long time, I feel, to find a race better than that, because that was fantastic. Let's start with the sprint, though. It's Barnard on pole, Bortoleto alongside. Off the start, Barnard locks up into Sandoval, but is able to keep the lead. Further back down, there is a crash into Sandoval for Victor Martins. It looks like the two Dams cars hit each other, and then that kind of tailback blocked Martins, who also hit them and went off into Sandoval. This brings out the safety car. Safety car ends on lap 3. Barnard's able to get away well because Hauger hits the wall. Hauger in P3 at that point, able to carry on, but does lose a little bit of time. Further back, Marty has a big crash into the wall. This brings out the safety car again. This brings out the safety car. You just took a bit too much curb in the swim pool section, and you just lost control, hit the wall. Safety car ends again on lap 9. And once again, another good getaway for Taylor Barnard. 10-second penalty for Kushmaini for leaving the track and gaining advantage. And Vashaw has got some damage, which brings out the virtual safety car, briefly. Bearman has also tapped the wall. There's a 10-second penalty for Dirksen for causing a collision. Now, Bearman has a very brief engine cutout. I think this was just before he went into the tunnel. He was in 11th. At the end of the cutout, he was in 14th. That was on lap 21. And this is the second weekend in a row we've seen this. It happened to Fornaroli as well in the feature race of Imola, now happening to Bearman. So I wonder if this will be a thing that happens to quite a few people this year. Zane Maloney goes into the back of O'Sullivan, and Kushmaini also has a spin. That's on lap 24, brings out another virtual safety car. But then, as Miney tries to get going again, he blocks the track, and this brings out a red flag. From that instant, though, Bearman, who lost 3 places, has now gained 3 places. This is on lap 24 of 30. We have a rolling start, much like with the F3 earlier in the day when they had a red flag. I think the rolling start was basically due to time constraints, because we knew that F1 qualifying was going to be happening pretty soon after. I think a standing start would be what they wanted to do, but, standing starts are more likely to end up in more people in the wall, more safety cars, more red flags. So going for the rolling start means that it's a safer start, which means that, they can probably get the race done in a satisfying conclusion before the F1 has to start. So rolling start, Barnard gets away well yet again, and after one lap he had like a 4-second lead, so he got away really well. Barnard controlling the entire race until the end, where Barnard takes his first ever win, and the first ever win for that team as well. Bortoleto in P2, Hauger was third, Antonelli a fantastic fourth. Antonelli did very well this weekend. Colapinto fifth, Stanek sixth, Aaron seventh, Hadjar 8th, Fittipaldi 9th, and O'Sullivan in 10th. But that's enough of the sprint. Let's talk about the feature race. Whoa. Here we go, everyone. This is the one. If Formula One's race this afternoon can beat this, it possibly means that the Formula One race is the greatest Monaco race of all time. Because this was incredible. I loved it so much. So Vashaw is on pole, Victor Martins alongside. As for our guys in the championship leader Zane Maloney had a bad qualifying. He lines up in 14th. Paul Aaron is second in the championship. He's 4th on the grid. Isaac Hadjar is 3rd in the championship and 3rd on the grid. As the lights go out, it is a dreadful start for Victor Martins, who goes from P2 to P14 in one lap. Awful start for Victor Martins. Vashaw keeps the lead and is in control from there. From the start, though, the big gainer is Ollie Bearman. Now, Ollie Bearman had another disappointing qualifying performance. With Ollie Bearman, it seems to be front row or bust at the minute, but he is up 5 places to 7th after the first lap. So Ollie Bearman getting some good positions at the start of the race. Crawford is tapped by Bortoleto, and Crawford ends up in the wall at the hairpin and is out. Amory Cordial going very slow, and hits to retire the car after suspension failure on lap 8. Now, I want to talk about Antonelli briefly because he is, he's the guy that a lot of eyes are on at the minute. A lot of pressure on him as well. For me, this is his best Formula 2 weekend thus far by a mile. So he had 4th place in the sprint. At this point in the race, about 10 laps in, he was 5th place in the feature. Never driven around Monaco before. Really doing an incredible job. Antonelli definitely won to celebrate this weekend. The pit stop start now with Marty pitting on lap 11, and Antonelli is just all over the back of Colapinto. This is for P4 on lap 13, a battle which will last basically the entire race. Colapinto does cut the chicane at this point as well, but doesn't receive a penalty for it. I believe it is noted, but you're allowed to cut the chicane a few times before you get any solid penalty there. Maloney pits on lap 15, and Marty has a fantastic overtake past Maloney as Maloney's coming out of the pits. Really, really good into... Is it Massenet up there? Yeah, let's say Massenet. My corner names are awful, and if you watch all the videos this weekend, you'll see I'm trying my best with corner names, but I know Sandevot, I know Raskas, I know where the tunnel is, Tabac and Casino, but other ones, especially that hill, there's like 6 corners there that aren't corners. Anyway, Fittipaldi pits on lap 16, Bearman pits lap 17, Bortoletto win on lap 19. Now this is when it all goes wrong for Richard Verschoor, leading the race quite comfortably, but then has a mechanical issue in the lead. As he's coming out the tunnel, he's going incredibly slowly, cuts the chicane. As he bumps over the curb, it seems to fix it a little bit, and he goes back up to racing speed, but that issue is persistent throughout the rest of his race. That starts on lap 19. Villagomez pits for a front wing change on lap 20 and retires the car. He had a little tap into Raskas. Stanek pits on lap 21. Aaron pits lap 21 from P3. The idea here being, I think, because Verschoor was now going a little bit slowly, you had Verschoor, Hadjar and Aaron, the top 3. I think Aaron pulls in here to try and get that undercut to Verschoor going slowly. If Hadjar can't pass him, then Aaron in clean air will be able to go faster. Then by the time they pit, Aaron will be able to get past both of them. Antonelli pits on lap 21 and comes out just in front of Ollie Bearman. And this leads to what I think is my favourite overtake in the history of the Monaco Grand Prix. And I'll hopefully put a clip of this out as a short on the channel later on when I'm able to get a good quality video of it. But this was incredible. So going into Casino, they're basically side by side. Then they go down into, is it Matinee? There, just before the hairpin, with Antonelli in the lead. As they come towards the hairpin, they are side by side. Antonelli locks up going into the hairpin. Bearman does a beautiful cutback to come on the inside of Antonelli, goes past him and takes the move there. Absolutely beautiful. 2 drivers who have been in very different positions in this race. 2 drivers who are teammates, showing each other the exact amount of respect needed, giving each other the exact amount of space needed. And yes, Bearman, beautiful move. Bearman, who's been having a very difficult season thus far in Formula 2, pulling that out in Monaco for what was P13 on the track, but, after everyone else had pitted, it proved to be possibly the most important move of Bearman's race. Unbelievable. Fantastic stuff. As for the rest of the race, Hadjar pits, Colapinto pits. Verschoor now pits from the lead on lap 24. It was a slow stop, but he still manages to keep the lead. Very good from him there. Hadjar is able to get past Verschoor, though, on lap 25. Aaron goes round the outside of Verschoor, but both of them cut the chicane, and Verschoor is able to keep the position. Aaron then passes into Sandevot later on that lap. Bearman tries to go around the outside of Tabac on Verschoor, but nearly hits the wall, very much like the Van Hoopen move we saw in Formula 3. Didn't end that badly. Bearman was able to escape there and then get past him into Sandevot. There's now a huge train behind Vershaw, just to show how slowly he is going at this point with this issue he has. And then, to make matters even worse, he gets a 5-second penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Personally, I think that's taking the mick. Because yes, he did leave the track and gain an advantage, and yes, he did block Aaron, but it's obvious to everyone that he's got an issue here, and he's just trying his best to get the car around. Eventually, Aaron got past him like half a lap later. I don't think the penalty was needed, but there you go. Vershaw pits to serve the penalty, and then a lap later pits to retire the car. And you can see he is absolutely devastated, and rightly too. He got pole position, he led the race really well, he had a really good gap, and then completely out of his control, this issue comes along and costs him everything. So he is devastated, and rightfully so. And it was a bit upset because you see him sat on the steps by the pits, and there's no one there to go, oh, come on, mate, it's going to be okay. And it's you just want to put your arm around him and tell him it's going to be okay. Richard Vershaw, if you're watching this video, it's going to be okay. You did fantastically. As for the rest of the race, Taylor Barnard and Correa pit on lap 31. Dennis Hauger pits on lap 33. An interesting thing about Dennis Hauger's car is when you go on board and you can see the halo, maybe watch out for this in the Spanish Grand Prix when that comes around our next Formula 2 race. But on the halo of Dennis Hauger, to the right, it says comfy balls. And that, I think, is rather interesting. Come for the analysis, stay for the comfy balls. Anyway, Bearman's starting to struggle on his tyres now. He started on the ultra soft tyres early on, pits early, goes to the soft, so the alternate strategy. So he's starting to struggle a little bit here, and is very much under pressure from Correa. Further back, there's this big train behind Colapinto. Colapinto locks up a little bit going into Rascasse, and Antonelli is able to dive bomb him, which opens the door for a domino effect that allows Bortoleto and Maloney to get past Colapinto as well. That's on lap 38. On lap 39, Martins pits. On lap 40, Dirksen pits, and then immediately is out of the race. We didn't really know what happened for a little bit, but basically, as he came out, he didn't look in his mirrors. Maloney was right there, and he smashed right into him. Luckily, Maloney was able to continue, and I don't think lost any positions. Maloney was a punching bag for a lot of people this weekend, and still did very well. Dirksen, though, is out of the race. This brings out, though, a virtual safety car, and it massively benefits Zach O'Sullivan, who was in the lead of the race by around about, I think at this point, about 18, 19 seconds. He hadn't pitted yet. He stayed on the tyres for about 41 laps of the 42-lap race. He stayed on those tyres, just wishing and hoping for a safety car. He got a brief virtual safety car at this point. He had pitted, though, before the virtual safety car came out. So he crossed that line before the virtual safety car came out, so that was allowed. And he comes out in the lead of the race. Unbelievable stuff. The virtual safety car ends on lap 41 of 42. O'Sullivan leading the race from Hauger by 0.3 of a second. Did I say Hauger? I mean Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar is furious at this point that this has been allowed to happen. But this is how it ends. Zach O'Sullivan takes his first ever Formula 2 race win in Monaco after starting 15th on the grid, going extremely long on those soft tyres, pitting on the second to last lap, takes the win from a furious Isaac Hadjar in P2. Paul Aron is in P3, but he is now the championship leader. Fantastic from Paul Aron. He was dropped from the Mercedes Junior team in November. He is now leading the Formula 2 championship. Fantastic for him. Ollie Bearman finishes in P4, just missing out on that podium. If it wasn't for the virtual safety car, he would have been on his first podium of the year. Fantastic drive from Ollie Bearman, and he gets my star of Formula 2 for this weekend. Of course, if you don't know already, the star of Formula 2 isn't the person who is necessarily the best, but the one who is the most entertaining. And for that one overtake alone, he gets the star of Formula 2. But for everything else as well, he definitely gets it. Ollie Bearman, fantastic there. Correa, P5. Hauger, P6. Antonelli finishes up in P7. A fantastic weekend for him overall. I think his position here in the feature race doesn't necessarily truly reflects how good he was this weekend. Very much stuck behind Colapinto for much of the race. Bortoletto finishes in 8th. Victor Martins has a good recovery after that awful start to finish in 9th. And Zane Maloney takes the last of the points playing positions in the P10. A fantastic Formula 2 weekend all around. I think last weekend in Imola I came up here and went, oh, it's not up to the usual standards of Formula 2. Well, this was up to the usual standards of Formula 2 and then some. Fantastic. I absolutely loved it. Let me know what you thought of this in the comments below. We'll be back to talk more Formula 2 in, it's going to be like 3 or 4 weeks' time now, the Spanish Grand Prix, which is a huge weekend because it has Formula 1, of course, Formula 2, Formula 3, and F1 Academy. The only weekend all year where all 4 of those competitions are happening at the same time. So that's going to be a big weekend coming up whenever that is. I think it's in about a month's time. So make sure you subscribe for that for when that comes around. We'll have all coverage of the Formula 1 later on today, and the Formula 1 driver racings will be out tomorrow. So all of that to come. Let me know what you thought of this incredible race. And until next time, have a good one. Goodbye.